I don't know. It just came to me. It's my corner, after all. I mean, it's just one little part of the world, but things take place there, too, just like everywhere else. It's a record of my little spot.
It's kind of overwhelming.
November 2nd, 2012. This is the Quiet Bubble Podcast by Walter Biggins, Episode 16. As with last edition's podcast, this one is a micro story, a very short story, one that I just wrote recently. I'm doing that a lot lately, 3 times a week at least. So here it is. It's simply entitled Smoking. He saw a movie once, Smoke, half-stoned on the girlfriend's couch, and with the aftermath of an argument between them hanging in the air like clouds of marijuana. They argued more after the movie ended. She liked it, he didn't, and somehow he ended up saying something unforgivable about her mother, and then walking out into the snow, around the city, shaking off his anger and guilt like rattling change in his pocket. Years later, long after the snow had melted and that relationship had chilled, something about smoke stuck. No matter the weather, or if he was hungover or what, the protagonist of the film took a photo of the street in front of his cigar shop. Brooklyn's seasons glowed and withered in Augie March's photographs. Whenever he finished a camera roll, Augie'd print up the shots, put them in the portfolio. He never sold them, and he rarely showed them to anyone. The man thought, now there's something noble about that, but he couldn't say what for sure. On another cold night, after another fight, he walked and thought about Augie March, and how Augie was slowly becoming his hero, an ordinary guy who took on a quietly extraordinary project, a little diary of his life that somehow needed others to complete it. And the man decided he needed something like that too, a portfolio where he could pin down all the things he could not or would not say to all the women who ultimately decided he hated himself. There was a cartoonist who drew and posted a daily comic on his website, but he drew himself as a cute little elf with day-glow colors. He found out about a poet who wrote a poem a day for a year, bought that book used online, read it, but felt the poetry was unexceptional and forced. Maybe that was the point, for it to be an exercise to work out the kinks, so that the poet could do better with his real stuff. Fine, thought the man, but why then sell the dregs in a book published by a major press? Besides, the man knew he was no poet. After that, he discovered this well-regarded filmmaker, promising, a cameraman like Augie, who made video diaries one a day for a year. He sold the grainy, modest things at first, but then gave them away as streaming movies on his website. But the man knew he was no filmmaker either. He didn't know what he was, or what he wanted to be, and in that sense, he was nothing like Augie March at all. Augie sold cigars, owned his own shop, was proud of it. The man, on the other hand, felt as wispy as cigar smoke. Movies unfurl like smoke too, never staying still, always curling one step closer to extinction, always lingering longer in the mind than in the actual air. So that was it, he decided. Every day, no matter what, he would have a small cigar, stroll through whatever neighborhood he was in, and talk as he smoked into a tape recorder. First, he had to take up smoking. 6 months into this, a woman jogging the other way stopped him. He had never been stopped before. Mostly there were wary glances, people crossing the street to avoid the guy muttering to himself. He had given up thinking that beautiful women were interested in him, but here she was, glistening with sweat, A little fleshy, but he liked that. And looking like she wanted an excuse, any excuse, to stop running for one goddamn second. Hey look, I've seen you do this periodically for a couple weeks now, she said. Should I call the psych ward for you, or is this a harmless eccentricity? He paused. He said, white people have eccentricities. Me, I'm a little nuts. She laughed. More, he thought, than was strictly necessary. So what's the story on this minor craziness, she said. So he started talking about how he'd seen this movie once, and about the trace of smoke it had left on his soul.